Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar called Why Traditional Marketing is Making a Comeback. My name is Kate Virzi. I am Director of Sales and Client Success at Marketing for ECPs. If you're not familiar with Marketing for ECPs, we are a full-service digital marketing agency, and we specialize in everything from website development to social media, email marketing, Google ads, YouTube ads. Really, we do everything in the digital space. And a really exciting update for us is that earlier this year, we acquired a 35-year-old business called Kleiman Performance Partners. Kleiman is incredible, and they offer consulting for helping you with operational efficiencies inside your practice. And I'm really excited to talk to you today because my background in marketing actually started in traditional advertising. So I worked for, in Canada, called Sportsnet, which if you're in the US is kind of like the ESPN of Canada. And I did TV and radio advertising there for many years. So I'm really excited today to talk to you about traditional advertising because it's really how I started my career in marketing. The agenda for today's presentation, first, we're going to talk about the new marketing reality and what that actually looks like. And then we're going to talk about effective traditional marketing methods and some of the ones that are making a bit of a resurgence. And then we'll talk about blending traditional means of advertising with digital marketing. And then, of course, wrapping it all up with talking about how we actually apply this to eye care marketing and support you and your practice. And so let's start with the new marketing reality. So marketing has quite the evolution. Back in the 1800s, there was things like billboards and newspapers where people were advertising. And then we started to add in radio and television. And now we're looking at so many different channels when it comes to advertising, especially in the digital space. There are things like podcasts, search engine and websites, blogs, social media, word of mouth, influencers, YouTube advertising, Reddit, social media ads, so many different ways that potential patients can learn about your practice. Today, consumers are exposed to anywhere between 4,000 to 10,000 digital ads per day. And this comes from so many different spaces, as we saw on the previous slide. And the challenge is that messages can easily get lost amongst all of the noise. And so as a practice, you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do to stand out? And so let's dive into it. One thing to keep in mind is that potential patients in today's day and age are much more informed than they've ever been before. And so you have to ask yourself, how are you going to show up for your patients? What we're seeing today is a resurgence of traditional advertising or traditional marketing methods. They're starting to regain importance, and this can be anything from traditional television advertising, radio, direct mail, billboards, and even print. These are all traditional means of advertising, but using them today actually has the ability to stand out amongst all of the digital noise. They're also, because they've been around for so long, they're seen as authentic and trustworthy, and they're able to break through that clutter of digital ads. Now, why do consumers respond to traditional means of advertising? Well, one of the first ones is that they're tangible. So things like direct mail, they're physical items that people can actually hold, which makes them more memorable. In terms of multisensory, when we look at an advertising avenue like television or even video, because it's multisensory, so it's sight, it's sound, it evokes emotion, it has the ability to have higher ad recall, and the messages are much more engaging. It's also an incredible way to educate your audience. Also, high trust. I spoke a little bit about this, but if it's on a billboard or radio, again, because these methods have been around for so long, there's something about it that feels legitimate. It also has a lasting presence. And so we're seeing that some things like digital or direct mail, for example, stay in an environment longer. So whether it's in a billboard that's passed daily or a radio ad that's heard on your commute or a print piece that's kept at home, it tends to have a lasting presence and helps with that awareness piece of advertising. Let's look closer at some of the effective traditional marketing methods. So direct mail. I mentioned before that direct mail stays in the house a long time, so it has lasting effects. It actually stays in a home on average for 17 days. It also has a 70% higher ad recall than digital ads and 118% higher response rate when it's paired with a digital ad campaign. And we're going to talk about shortly how the intersection of traditional advertising and digital ads work really well to complement each other. Direct mail is also highly targetable, so you can be very specific about who you're looking to target. What kind of income do they have? What is their lifestyle? What is their family status? And then, of course, you can get specific about the geography that you're looking to target. And some of the formats that are available is you can do simple postcards, you can do flyers, you can do bifolds, you can do brochures, you can send out magazines. There's so many different ways to use direct mail, and you can also get really creative with doing different things like a scratch to win on the direct mail piece. When we look at radio, so radio is really personal and community driven. Local radio stations help to build trust for audiences. Radio is a fantastic way to really build awareness and help support your practice with seasonal campaigns. For example, you could run a back to school eye exam radio campaign reminding potential patients to book an appointment with you. This industry in Canada and the US continues to grow and evolve. In fact, radio's digital revenue grew by 80% in the last 3 years. And the truth is that radio reaches billions of listeners weekly worldwide, making it one of the most universal media channels. When we look at billboards and out of home, so another method of traditional advertising, these are very highly visible and they help you to reach a really wide audience. The cool thing about eye care is that a lot of times there are a lot of people that need your services. Marketing can help you be specific about a small audience that you want to go after, but billboards and out of home are effective marketing when you want to target a lot of people or a big group of people. Digital billboards are also really effective because they allow you to swap out the creative really easy. Say you want to switch from a use your benefits before the end of the year to a new look, new year, new frames for you campaign. You can easily do that with digital billboards. It also helps build awareness. All of these traditional advertising methods really help focus on building awareness. Patients see your message daily on their commute into work, and so it just keeps your practice top of mind when the potential need arises for your services. Print media as well, so community newspapers, advertising in magazines, it remains strong, especially among older demographics. If you're a practice that's looking to target an older demographic, maybe considering print is something that makes sense for you. It's also great for building trust, especially in smaller towns or suburban neighborhoods. And this industry also continues to grow. Now, how do we actually blend traditional advertising methods with digital marketing? Well, what we're finding is that using both of them together is actually one of the most important things you can do. Digital is really strong in the fact that it helps people drive a specific action. It's also easier to measure and allows for precise targeting. When we look at traditional strengths, there's the credibility, as I've mentioned, because it's been around so long. It also has memorability and it has that physical presence, especially when we look at things like direct mail. But what we're finding is that the most effective way to use them is when they are used together. And integrated campaigns always outperform single channel ones. So as a practice, you don't want to just focus your efforts on doing a radio campaign, but you also want to tie it back to digital, remembering that your website is your digital house and that everyone is using their devices these days. So traditional advertising can really help promote your practice and keep your practice top of mind, but digital is really what's going to drive that action piece for your practice. Just some of the stats around the power of integration. So we're seeing that when people pair direct mail campaigns with Google or Meta ads across social media, there's an increase of 118% in response. Radio and social ads also have higher ad recall when it's enforced across multiple devices. And you can really get integrated with billboards with doing a geofencing campaign. And so you're capturing people's phones as they pass the billboard. So you're not just targeting people on their commute to work, but then you're retargeting those same people with ads while they're on their devices. One of the most important things when it comes to digital advertising, and one of the best things about digital advertising, is its ability to use direct targeting and data. And so data really helps us make informed decisions about the marketing that we're doing. Direct mail is great because you can look at things like demographics, household stats, and postal codes to get really specific on who you're looking to target. Radio, you can work with your local radio stations to understand who their audience profiles are so that you understand who you're speaking to when you choose to advertise on that platform. Billboards and out of home, you can look at specific highways, specific neighborhoods that you want to target, specific transit routes. And combined with digital data for retargeting and lookalike audiences, this will help make your marketing campaigns more effective. Some of the ways that you can integrate digital marketing and tracking into your traditional means of advertising. For direct mail, you can look at putting in trackable phone numbers, even QR codes that people have to scan, or form fills. This just allows you to measure the effectiveness of the campaign. Same with radio, you can use unique promo codes in the ad message or even dedicated phone numbers so that you know that the patients are contacting you from that campaign. Billboards, you can look at brand lift studies and geofencing attribution. And then print, of course, you can look at coupon redemption tracking. You can also integrate phone numbers into print campaigns as well. And so now let's take everything and apply it to eye care marketing. Why does all of this matter for your practice? Well, the more that you can expose your practice to people, the more impressions you can get, the more people you can get in front of, the more likely that they're going to choose you when they have a need for your services. And so certain traditional marketing channels work best in certain scenarios. Television or any video content, to be honest, works great for creating education, especially around medical specializations. If you're a practice that focuses on dry eye or myopia control, you can really use television or video marketing to educate your audience on the importance and what it actually prevents and why it's important for people. You can also use ads promoting special events or trunk shows in direct mail campaigns. So this works really well to keep your event top of mind. And then radio can be a really powerful tool for community level targeting and brand alignment. So is there a local radio station that maybe has the same values as your practice, is heavily involved in the community? This might be a great opportunity for your practice to align with that radio station to reach that audience. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when it comes to traditional advertising methods is the turnaround time might look a little bit different than, say, digital campaigns, which can sometimes be a little bit quicker. For print, you're typically looking at around 1 to 2 weeks. Probably the fastest option depending on all of the edits when it comes to the design, but typically the design is submitted, proofed, and sent to press. Radio, this can be about 2 to 3 weeks. So it involves script writing, voice talent, and recording, following by obviously securing the ad spots with the local stations. Billboards, these can be 2 to 4 weeks, so a little bit of a longer time. It requires looking at the billboard space, designing the creative, and coordinating with the media vendor. And lead times can obviously vary depending on the billboard availability. And then last, direct mail, which does take a little bit longer, but the process includes really the creative development because you want to be thoughtful about the messaging that you're putting out to the community. You also want to look at your data targeting, the printing, the distribution. Sometimes extra time might be needed if the creative assets must be designed from scratch. So just some things to keep top of mind as you are planning out your marketing campaigns for the year. Now, one thing I want to touch on as we wrap up this webinar is that I've talked a lot about traditional marketing versus digital marketing. And the truth is that it's just marketing and that digital actually has a place in everything that you are doing. Traditional is really about building that awareness, but digital is what drives the action. And the truth is that, most patients aren't ready to book an appointment today. In fact, only about 4% of the market is ready to move forward with booking an appointment. And so what are you doing to talk to that other 96%? And that's really where tactics like traditional advertising comes into play to build that awareness. But again, using those two avenues together, traditional and digital, is what's going to be the most effective for your practice and allow you to have a really broad reach. That is the end of our webinar today. My name again is Kate. If you have any questions about marketing, please feel free to reach out. We are always happy to answer any questions. And thank you so much to our sponsors, Optical Prism and Envision Magazine. Have a wonderful rest of your day.